Okay, welcome to the RETEACH of the Percent Applications Assessment. I'm going to walk through each page, each question, telling you exactly how I would solve it so that you can hopefully learn from your mistakes and be able to be more successful on your retest. So let's start with number 1. A clothing company produced 1,400 items of clothing. Of those, 15% were jackets, 35% were dresses, and 20% were shoes. The question asks how many were not jackets, dresses, or shoes. So I have to remember that percent adds up to 100. So I have 15% that are jackets. I don't want those, guys. I have 35% that are dresses. I don't want those. And I have 20% that are shoes. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to figure out the amount or the percent of items that I do have. So I'm going to add 35 plus 15 plus 20. I get 70 as my answer. Okay, well, I need to know the number of items. So first of all, if percent is out of 100 and these guys add up to 70%, I know that the rest of the items equal 30%. Well, now that doesn't help me because the question says items, and if I look, this is not percents. So now I'm going to set up my percent bar and draw my bar. I know that the whole thing is 100%, and I know that I'm only looking for 30%, so that's somewhere down here. All right, now I know that there were 1,400 items, so that is my total, the total bar, or 100%. So I'm going to put 1,400 right there. Now I don't know what this is, so I'm going to put an X. And I now have a proportion that I can solve. So I'm going to do cross products. I'm going to multiply 30 times 1,400. So 30 times 1,400 equals 100x. And I know that might be a little hard to read, so I'm going to rewrite it where I have some space. So all I did is I multiplied 30 times 1,400, and the other side is 100x. Now I'm going to hope that you guys can multiply. In order to save time, I'm going to go ahead and multiply for you, and I'm going to tell you that the answer is 42,000, and that equals 100x. So now in order to get x by itself, I have to divide both sides by 100. Those cancel out. Now in order to make my life a little bit easier, I can simplify. One set of zeros, another set of zeros. So now I have 420 over 1, which equals 420. And that is answer choice D. All right, perfect. Now let's move on to question number 2. Question number 2 says, the yearbook staff surveyed 8th grade students to find out what type of pet they preferred. The data is shown below. To the nearest percent, what percent of students preferred hamsters? So I'm going to look at my data. I don't care about these other guys. I care about hamsters. Well, the number of students who preferred hamsters is between 30 and 40, which means it's 35. Now, 35 is an answer. It's C. That's a trick. I hope you didn't fall for it. Okay? It's 35 students. I like to draw my percent bar so that I kind of get a visual. I know that 35 students. I know that the whole percent bar would be 100. Now, I either need to know the percent that picked hamsters or the total number of people who were surveyed. If I look at my data, I can easily figure out the number of students who were surveyed. I need to figure out how many people picked cat, which it falls right between. It's 45. The number who picked dogs, which is 50. And the number who picked rabbits, which is 20. Now I'm going to add these numbers up because I need the total. So I'm going to add 45 plus 50 plus 35 plus 20. Again, I'm hoping that you guys know how to add, so I'm going to go ahead and add for you. And I get that this is a total of 150 students. So now that I have the total number of students, I'm going to put it above the 100 because it's 100%. That's everybody. Now I'm just looking for this small number over here. So I'm going to put an X there because I don't know that. I now have a proportion, so I'm going to do cross multiply. On this side I have 150x. On this side I have 35 times 100. Remember, when you're multiplying by 100, you just add 2 zeros to the end of whatever you get. So 35 times 1, which is 35, and then I'm going to add 2 zeros. Now I'm trying to isolate my variable, my x, and right now 150 is being multiplied with x. The opposite of multiply is divide, so I'm going to divide both sides by 150. Now again, Miss Davis is always looking for a way to make it a little bit easier, and I know that I can simplify. I can mark out 1 0 on both numbers, meaning I've divided both of them by 10. So now I have 350 divided by 15. Remember, your top number goes inside, so 350. Your bottom number goes outside. You can think of cowboy horse. Cowboy sits on top, horse goes inside. You can think of T-bow, top in, bottom out. It doesn't really matter as long as you remember the concept. So now we're just going to divide. 15 does not go into 3, so I'm going to remind myself, don't put it over the 3. I skip. 15 goes into 35 2 times. 2 times 15 is 30. Subtract 50. Does 15 go into 50? Absolutely. I know that 3 will get 45. Now I'm looking to the nearest percent. So I'm going to have a remainder, but I just want to know the nearest percent. I don't want to know an exact answer. So I get 23%. And I do see that as an answer choice. That would be answer choice A. Alright, the last one on the first page. It says last year there were 80 students in band. This year there are 100 students in band. Determine the percent of change, so that's important to me, percent of change, and the number of students taking band from last year to this year. Well, my formula is just do difference over the original. Just do DO, difference over original. So I had 80 and now I have 100. So the difference, I would say 100 minus 80. My difference is 20. My original number would be 80 because it says last year there were 80. That's what I started with. Now, if I look over here, my answer has to be in percent. So I am going to see if I can simplify. If I can simplify first, that's going to make my life easier. Well, these both end in a 0, so I can mark them off. Now I have 2 8s. And I know that those are both even, and I know they can be divided by 2. Remember, you have to divide the top and the bottom by the same thing. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 8 divided by 2 is 4. So now I have 1/4. But again, I need it in a percent. If I have this one memorized, that makes my life a little bit easier. If not, all I have to do is division. Remember, top goes in, bottom goes out. So now does 4 go into 1? No. So I put a 0 and a decimal up top. Once I put the decimal up top, I can add a 0 inside. How many 4s are in 10? 2. 2 times 4 is 8. Subtract. I don't want a remainder, so I'm going to add another 0 inside. How many 4s are in 20? 5. 4 times 5 is 20. And you're like, oh, 25, I see the answer. Well, this is 25 hundredths, but I need to make it a percent. Remember, to turn a decimal to a percent, you multiply by 100, or you just move your decimal 2 places to the right. So right now my decimal is before the 2. If I move it 2 to the right, 1, 2, it's now here. So my answer is obviously A. Now another thing I could do to make sure that I was correct is I could read the answer choices. 100 minus 80, is that how we found the difference? Absolutely. And we divided it by 80? Absolutely. So that's just another indication of why that's the correct answer. On B, we said that 100 was the original, which 100 is not the original. It says this year, so 100 would be your new number. On the second one, it's 80 over 100. Well, 80 is not the difference. 80 is the original, so that would make that one wrong. And on D, they just switched the order, okay? So there are the answers in the walkthrough for questions 1 through 3 on your percent applications test. Turn to the next video if you need to watch the next page.